a time to celebrate the achievements of African Americans and their role throughout our country's history. The history of black nurses in America has been marked by a fight for access to education, job opportunities, and most fundamentally, to freedom. Even when lacking formal education, early African American nurses played a vital role as healers to their communities. Today, I will talk about 10 black nurses who have made noteworthy contributions to the field of nursing from the period of the late 1800s to present day 21st century. Mary Seacole. She traveled the world extensively, and during her travels, she nursed cholera patients during an outbreak in Panama before seeking a nursing position in Crimea, for which she was rejected. Since her help was refused at the Nightingale Hospital, Seacole found a site just a mile from the British headquarters and helped build a structure that she called the British Hotel. Mary Seacole was a British Jamaican nurse and a businesswoman, and she had to work to overcome prejudice, but by using her talents, skills, and energy, she finally earned a place as one of the most famous nurses in history. Her methods may have been unorthodox, but she reached her goal as a healer, and she stands as an inspiration to all nurses today. Harriet Tubman, a famed conductor of the Underground Railroad, a former slave who also acted as a nurse during the Civil War, tending to black soldiers and liberated slaves. In addition to caring for people she rescued from slavery, she served as a Union Army nurse, traveling to South Carolina to tend to thousands of sick and wounded soldiers and those who were newly freed from enslavement. She was an expert in herbal medicine, and she was well known for her ability to cure men of dysentery. She was asked by the Army surgeons to use her nursing skills to support troops at a military base in Florida. Mary Eliza Mahoney. Well, Miss Mahoney was one of the first black members of the organization that later became known as the American Nurses Association. She was also, at the age of 20, a nurse. On March 3, 1878, Mary Mahoney was accepted into New England Hospital's graduate nursing program. Upon her graduation, she became the first African American graduate nurse. Something else to note about Miss Mahoney, she was among the first women in Boston to register to vote at the age of 76. Ada Belle Tombs. Well, after the United States entered World War I, Miss Tombs urged the American Red Cross to admit black nurses into their ranks and fought for the rights of black women to serve in the U.S. military. Her efforts eventually led to the United States Army Nurse Corps, and for her efforts, Miss Tombs was introduced to President Warren G. Harding. She later published the first chronicle of history of black nurses in America with her book, Pathfinders, A History of Progress of Colored Graduate Nurses. She was one of the original inductees to the American Nurses Association Hall of Fame in 1976. Estelle Massey Osborne. She paved the way for African American nurses to enter education and leadership roles in nursing. During World War II, Miss Osborne was hired in 1943 as a consultant to the Coordinating Committee on Negro Nursing for the National Council for War Service. That year, Congress passed the Bolton Act in response to the severe shortage of nurses at home and in military overseas. Nurses could not be trained fast enough. This sounds familiar. Osborne helped to ensure that black nurses benefited from the $160 million bill that was passed and provided for nursing education and financial aid. Her work also significantly expanded the number of nursing schools that accepted black students. Something to note, after the war, Miss Osborne returned to nursing education. In 1946, she became the first black faculty member at what is now known as the NYU Roy Myers College of Nursing. Hazel Johnson Brown. She first applied to the Chester School of Nursing, but was denied admission because she was African American. Steadfast in her resolve, she instead began training at the Harlem Hospital of Nursing in New York, graduating from this institution in 1950. She later practiced on medical cardiovascular ward at the Philadelphia Veterans Hospital and became head nurse within 3 months. At the same time, Ms. Johnson began coursework towards her bachelorate degree in nursing at Villanova University. While working at the VA, she also became intrigued by the variety of opportunities and travel offered by the Army Nurse Corps. Johnson enlisted in the military in 1955, just 7 years after President S. Truman moved to integrate the United States Armed Forces and abolish discrimination. She was named director of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Nursing and was named Army Nurse of the Year twice. Miss Hazel Johnson Brown, she broke racial barriers in the armed services and served as the first black chief of the U.S. Army Nurse Corps and the first black female brigadier general. Dr. Bernadine Lacy chose her nursing school because it was the only one in the state that would accept black students into a registered nursing program. According to the American Journal of Nursing, she and other black students were forced to sit in the back row, and a white instructor once told her, "You don't have any business being this good," when she received high marks. That experience fueled her ambitions in nursing and led her to become an educator, political advocate, and researcher. She earned a BSN from Georgetown University, her MA from Howard University, and her doctorate from Teachers College at Columbia University. Ms. Lacy was a distinguished nursing educator, political advocate, researcher, clinician, and leader. She was named a living legend by the American Academy of Nursing in 2014. Sadly, she passed away recently on March 26, 2021. Bernice Johnson. She has made a career out of first. She began her career as the first female African American chief psychiatric nurse at the VA hospital in Dallas. Following the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Johnson became the first black woman elected to public office in Dallas when she won a seat in the Texas House. She introduced the National Nurse Act of 2011. What's important about this bill? Well, it recognizes the many contributions that nurses have made in public health and disease prevention. It elevates the importance of the Chief Nurse Officer of the United States Public Health Service and states that nurses are in an ideal position to promote social justice and wellness to Americans. Bernice Johnson, she was the first registered nurse elected to Congress, first black female to serve on the ranking member of Science, Space, and Technology Committee. Beverly Malone. Beverly Malone grew up in the segregated Deep South. She worked alongside her great-grandmother, who was a healer in her community. Malone was a reluctant leader. She was raised by her great-grandmother in the part of Kentucky And she was someone who only encountered a physician once in her life, in the first 17 years of her life, to be exact. From these meager beginnings, she found a passion for healthcare. She earned a bachelor's and master's degree in nursing and psychiatric nursing, and she earned her PhD in clinical psychology at the University of Cincinnati. Malone is also the former General Secretary of the Royal College of Nursing and former Federal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Health. Ernest J Grant. Mr. Grant, or should I say Dr. Grant, holds a PhD in nursing and headed the North Carolina's nationally renowned J.C. Burns Center at UNC Hospitals in Chapel Hill, where he started as a staff nurse in 1982. On January 1st, 2019, he became the president of ANA, the American Nurses Association. Ernest Grant helps represent the interests of America's 4 million registered nurses and has worked to encourage diversity in nursing. He is the first male to hold this office. He is also an internationally recognized burn care and fire safety expert. He was presented the Nurse of the Year Award in 2002 by President George W. Bush for his work treating burn victims from the World Trade Center. Interesting note, Dr. Grant began his long and illustrious career in nursing as a student at the Asheville Buncombe Technical Community College Licensed Practical Nursing Program. Yes, he started as a community college student. He states, "If it wasn't for the community college system, I would not be where I am today. It was a leg up to continue my education. I went to a 1-year nursing program and decided that I really loved nursing." For more information about these 10 incredible nurses, here are website references for further information. Thank you.